Hello, everyone, and welcome to Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the nerds here. We got a special episode for you guys coming up here, and some really exciting news to come up. So, without further ado, we're going to toss this to our guy and our producer, Hitch, and he's going to bring our special guest above here in a second. What's going on, Hitch? How you doing, my man?
What's up, T. Mitch? How you doing today? Carbonite Bounty
Doing
BS
lovely, man.
Order 66 special. I've been jazzed up for this.
Definitely.
Been planning this for
Definitely,
weeks. And I want to introduce somebody before we get to our special guest. I want to introduce somebody who is near and dear to my heart. A man who doesn't just create art. A man who is art. The one, the only, DP Brown. DP Brown, how you doing?
I am in the house. I am back. Oh man, love to see you guys. How you guys doing today?
Oh,
What's
good.
going on? The theme of thieves himself.
Woo!
Yeah, buddy. I'm here. Taking and always driving and stuff, man. Yeah, that's me, DP Brown in the house.
All right, and you know him, the one, the only, the man who's ranked up at least once and is soon to rank up again. The man of many names, the OG, Admiral Tarkin.
Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? I'm doing good. Good to see you,
buddy. Good to see you.
All right. Now, we've talked about this off mic a lot, and we don't bring a lot of our planning into the show just because it's boring. I'm bored just talking about it now. But we've been real excited. There's another podcast group that's going through the Clone Wars, just like us, a Star Wars journey with Ashley and Brandy. And we are so happy to be joined today by Ashley from a Star Wars journey. Ashley, how you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming on our podcast today and bringing us another perspective, I guess, from another Star Wars podcast. So we appreciate you coming along here for the journey, and I guess welcome to today's episode.
Thank you so much. Can't wait to talk a little Star Wars with you guys.
And before we get going in, for our listeners, obviously you have your own platform. Do you want to let them know a little bit about you guys and where you guys come from as far as the Star Wars spectrum?
Probably shouldn't mention this on air, but there's a little bit of a echo delay, like by 10 seconds. So just try to catch up. So you can actually find us on Facebook and Twitter for following us on social media. So we're a Star Wars journey with Ashley and Brandy. We first came up with the concept for the podcast after the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. We both were so devastated by the ending that we didn't know how we were going to get through the hiatus for season 3. So we thought, well, let's just watch the whole Star Wars canon so that we can get through this hiatus. So we started out with episode 1, Phantom Menace, then went to Attack of the Clones, and we watched the entire Clone Wars. Right now we're watching Bad Batch, and this week we're starting Rebels. So that is where we're at with our journey right now.
Well, somebody's got the stream up on a tab. That's awesome. I'm sorry. Sorry we're getting an echo. Let me ask you this. This is something we've all sort of copped to on the show. So when you first saw Star Wars, right? Like, what is your first memory of Star Wars that you have way back in the databanks? Like, what is it?
This is to me, right?
Yeah. We already know about that. I don't know about the guys. They're boring. I want to hear about your stuff.
First memory. I would say Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi. Seeing the Ewoks on Endor and seeing Leia on the speeders through the woods. I don't know why, but I was just completely blown away when I saw that. And then the entire scene with Darth Vader and Luke fighting, like, it was so iconic. I was hooked immediately, and I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. Like, that's what stuck with me the most.
Awesome.
Yeah. So again, Ashley, so you guys have been doing this for how long as far as your podcast?
We only just started like late January, so we haven't been doing it too long.
Okay. And what got you guys going into doing the actual podcast? What made you motivated to do that?
What was it? Motivate? I'm sorry. I'm still getting an echo.
Yeah, sorry about that echo. I don't know where it's coming from.
It's okay.
But yeah, what motivated you guys to start the podcast?
So we wanted to start the podcast because we wanted to start the podcast to basically get through the hiatus of The Mandalorian, because me and Brandy just fell in love with The Mandalorian, and we were just thinking, how are we going to get through a year until season 3? And then we just started thinking, like, there is so much content out there now. It's not just, movies. There's all of these series that we'd never seen before. And we had been a part of these Facebook groups, and everyone on there was saying, you got to watch Clone Wars. You got to watch Clone Wars. So we're like, I don't know if I want to watch an animated show, but, we'll give it a chance. And so we just started watching it and, just got hooked. So, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, we've been doing this for a while now. So it's great to have you on here. Just get a little bit of house cleaning out the way. You want to let them know where you can find your links in your podcast?
Absolutely. So you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Just look up A Star Wars Journey with Ashley and Brandy. Our podcast is on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, pretty much all of those platforms you can find us on. So just A Star Wars Journey with Ashley and Brandy.
Awesome. And if you guys are just tuning in to us live, some house cleaning with us, we're at nerdcyclopedia.com. Make sure that you go onto that site, find all our links, or at Nerdcyclopedia on Twitter, Facebook, and also on Instagram. Make sure that you guys are subscribing to us on YouTube. At Nerdcyclopedia, of course. If you are listening to the podcast, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. And also make sure that you join in our Facebook group there. We got some really good content on there, some really good conversation and stuff going on. Carbonite Bound and BS, a Star Wars Facebook group. So make sure that you guys are searching us there, and definitely leave us some comments and by emailing us nerds@nerdcyclopedia.com. So we're going to get started and basically talk about this the whole section of Clone Wars. So it's been like really super exciting to actually watch this. It's coming from a casual fan perspective, which off mic, Brandy and I talk, say we're coming from the casual fans perspective of how Star Wars is. Brandy, tell them a little bit about what you thought of what the movie from the Star Wars Clone Wars movie, and how you felt about like those first few seasons.
Ashley, what did you think about sorry, we're talking to you. We're dealing with some sound issues on our end. It's just totally cool. We were just talking about, I think you're still muted, by the way, but we were just talking about when we started watching the Clone Wars, the first movie and the first couple episodes of the first season seemed a little bit like kids TV. What was it for you that sort of hooked you on the Clone Wars?
Mainly it was being introduced to Ahsoka. Because I met Ahsoka in season 2 of The Mandalorian, and everyone that had seen the Clone Wars, like, that was an amazing moment to see her, and I'm like, who's this chick? So I was really anxious to see where Ahsoka came from and see her story. So that was what kind of hooked me. In the beginning, yes, she's a little annoying. Yes, she's a little, but I knew that was done on purpose, because I read that Filoni did that on purpose so that he could control her character arc and character development. So I thought I am in this for the long haul. But she was the one that hooked me to Clone Wars.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So I think that's so cool how what The Mandalorian has done is democratize Star Wars and almost hit a reset button for everybody. And I know that we were talking before we started broadcasting today, and you were telling us that that your partner Brandy is much more of a depth fan, maybe like me and T Mitch, where she read all the Legends books and had no friends in high school and college, just like me. I
don't know about that. But...
Well, we're not gonna. Okay, Brandy, I'm sorry. You could have been here. No, I'm just teasing, of course. But
okay.
I didn't have a lot of friends in high school or college, so I'll say it about myself. Anyway, the New Jedi Order stuff was really cool. But what I think is really awesome is that The Mandalorian has really started everything over, because the way you're saying you experienced Ahsoka is literally the same exact way I experienced Ahsoka. And I have been into this stuff since I was in the little, the short pants, so to speak. One of the coolest things about this, and it's brought a lot of new people into the milieu, and that's so good, because Star Wars fans, and I'm not a cop to this. We are a bunch of annoying, pedantic nerds, and that's okay, in general. But you need new blood now and then, which is really cool. My dad's watching this stuff now, right?
Right.
Really, really awesome. When we started talking about Clone Wars, and I was really ambivalent about doing the series, I didn't really want to, and we got to the first batch of episodes, and I think it was the same thing for me and DP, where it was that episode where they differentiated all the clone personalities at the very beginning. It was like episode 5, right?
Yeah.
Where you had Fives and Rex and Heavy and all those guys, and that group of clones, that core group of clones, to me, was what really made this show run, and I love that about the
show. I guess let's go down to Ken. Ken, what were your top moments of the series for you?
Well, so I echo a lot what I've heard. So when this series came out in, what did we say it was, like 2006 or something?
It was like 2006 or 8 or something.
It was right after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and I completely dismissed it. I couldn't figure out when it was on. I didn't have the patience to look in the TV guide to see when the 20-minute thing was coming outside. I didn't have time. Plus, it was animated and it was geared toward kids. And I watched like the first couple episodes and just bailed. I never watched it. So when we started to now talk about, hey, let's go back and look at this series and see what's really about, I was like, all right, whatever. Okay, so it's Star Wars. And from the moment I started watching it, aside from the annoying banter of the narrator at the beginning, I thought, damn, this is good stuff. And how did I miss it? So some of the biggest thing Hitch, you already talked about the clones, like learning who the clones were. That was a big miss in the original trilogy. So you hear about the Clone Wars, you hear about the Army of the Republic, but no real details of it. So this blew my mind, learning that they were basically people. There were clones that were basically robots, but then there were also clones that had some personality. And then as you started to sort of get to know some of them, Rex, Cody, and as you learned about also the Jedi background, I mean, that's the biggest thing that I enjoyed, was learning who Kit Fisto was, and all these Cersei Tin, and when you see these Jedi in the original trilogy, with the first trilogy, which has this great character, Jar Jar Binks, which was really awesome that they brought him in. But then these Jedi who you never saw before just get like wiped out. Like, who were these people? Who were these? Who were they? Where did they come from? Why did they die so quickly? You get all this backstory in the Clone Wars, and you learn kind of what their struggles were a little bit and how they kind of fit into the puzzle. So I felt that this was a great fill in the blanks. I didn't catch every detail through it, but I caught enough that kind of filled in things for me, and just fleshed out the story a little bit, learning about the clones and the Jedi, Darth Maul. I mean, there's so many really great tidbits in here that if you're a Star Wars fan and you're out there and you haven't watched this, you need to watch this series. It's worthwhile. It's an easy watch. You can watch it with your kids if you got kids. It's a really great. Great.
There are some scenes that, whoa.
Yeah, well, when Anakin and Padme are like, developing their relationship, I guess it gets a little dreamy, but what are you going to do? It's animated, so it's okay. It's all right.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want your kids walking in when Obi-Wan's going, say hello to Padme.
Yeah.
You don't want them picking up that behavior.
Right, not at all.
I was actually referencing some of the gruesome deaths and torture scenes. Like,
oh yeah.
That's what I feel so embarrassed and ashamed that I ever thought this was a kid's show. because there are some brutal scenes in this show.
So
Like,
that'll happen later, right? The first couple seasons were pretty tame.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah. Then they got like legit. They got like when Anakin starts to turn and skewers people through the back, and he's like, "Yeah, what?"
Right? Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do, you know. Then it gets really dark, and that helps to build that descent of Anakin's character into Vader. And that's like my favorite scene, the last episode, when we see the transition, and there's that connection with Vader and Ahsoka. I mean, that I fell out of my chair when I watched that. That was great for me as a fan, like a vintage fan. And I never really watched a lot of the canon stuff, but this, or read it, you know, except for comics sometimes. But that the way it ended was just, it was poetic. It was really nice.
How are you feeling about some of those top moments here, Trenton?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what Ken was saying as well. I think, and we talked about this off air, the biggest thing for this series, what it was it was a bridge between 2 and 3. Because if you can argue that basically after 2, you needed like a 2.5. So I felt like this was that like third movie that they expanded into a series that really bridged those gaps, because there was a giant gap between 2 and 3. There was a shift in the war, and it really was just an abrupt kind of ending to a climatic story that I felt that needed more description. So it was nice to see. And also at this point, you got to see more Sith lore, you got to see more Jedi. So I just think, you know, and we discussed this moving forward, I mean, this is really, I think, a better format. You could tell more stories, get more people involved, and get a better interaction with these 20 to 30 minute shorts, some 40-minute episodes, like we've seen with The Mandalorian. So, just like everybody else, I turned my shoulder to this off the bat, and kind of regret doing that, but I definitely enjoyed watching this with the guys here, and look forward to our future as far as some of the other content, like Rebels maybe. That's another haul.
Yeah. We got to do Bad Batch, man, because like the best thing of those, you know, the last episodes was that Bad Batch, like backdoor pilot. I really like that a lot. And those guys are so interesting. And, you know, if they're not going to get it with like what we assume is going to happen to the rest of the clones, because Palpatine doesn't need them anymore and he doesn't deal with waste very well. He's got a very direct way of dealing with problems that we've seen. Very, very cutthroat managerial structure. But for me, my thing is, I think it's interesting to, after watching the Clone Wars and having it put in that slot right between 2 and 3, it makes me think that the sequel trilogy makeup, how they have Event 1, Event 1B, and then another thing later, would have made a lot of sense in the context of the Clone Wars and how the prequel trilogy was set up. I have long said that my big problem with Episode 1 is that it happened. And that my big problem.
It had to happen. It had to happen that way. There had to.
It had to start somewhere, Hitch.
We will disagree that it had to start there, and I will prove it.
Anakin was a little boy at some point.
But I don't need to see it. I don't need to see it. First of all, if you're writing a movie about Abraham Lincoln, you're telling me you're setting that first scene in Kentucky in the dirt cabin? No, you're not.
Absolutely.
You're setting that scene in the Hall of Statues in the Congress, where the House of Representatives met in the 1840s, where he was a Whig congressman. Oh, I'm just kidding. But, you know, for me, the structure makes a lot of sense as is now that we have the Clone Wars in the middle. I've said on our show a lot, what day is it in Star Wars world? What day is it in a galaxy far, far away? And what's interesting is that the Clone Wars cartoon and Bad Batch both make the case that today in Star Wars is not the Battle of Yavin 4, but is in fact the day of Order 66. And for me, that means that the focal point of the Star Wars series was basically off by 20 years for my entire childhood. And that is a wild thought to have.
But isn't the whole Star Wars timeline about ups and downs? I mean, it's about victories. It's about struggle. It's about conflict. I mean, there's and when you finish one, there's another one. So Order 66, I think, was just a long haul. It was a long presentation. It goes back in history. You can start with the beginning of the Sith and how well they've got the Sith, and there's the good side of the galaxy, and then you got the bad. And so eventually the bad wants to squash the good. So how are you going to do that? You go into the structure and build from in a poison. And what is that? Order 66. And who do you put in charge of it? Palpatine. Perfect. And he plays both sides of the battle. And at some point he decides, you know what? The time is now. Boom. Done. And it worked perfectly. It was beautiful. And now there's your new struggle. Now you need a rebellion. And that's where our heroes, that's where the Battle of Yavin comes into place. That's the beginning of the downfall of the Empire. Because after that, they're just throwing darts at the wall. They're not even hitting the target anymore.
So your supposition is that, and the story arc, that the Empire's first setback is essentially shown in the Rogue One, A New Hope.
When they lost those plans, to the rebels, that was it. That was the first chink in the armor, because this was Tarkin's biggest victory. This was his ultimate weapon. He designed this. He was there. He built it. This is the ultimate weapon of the galaxy. He said to Vader all the time. And what did Vader say? No match for the dark side. And he's like, your old religion. You know, what other human disses Darth Vader?
That doesn't get choked. That's a good point.
No other human. How many admirals and commanders and captains perish in Empire Strikes Back? Almost all of them.
All of them.
So Tarkin was the only, and it was his, and so that's why he had to go down with the ship, because that was his thing. That was his baby. So that was the beginning of the end for the Empire.
Yeah, this whole story is just sad. It's a sad. I mean, it's great content. You know, great story. You know, but Jedi can't even control that, and they get sort of like, you know, splintered about. We see key characters from the series get killed in Revenge of the Sith, which I was just so disappointed in. It was just a sad thing when you know it was leading up to this. It had to go down like this because you know how how future episodes are going to go. But just seeing it play out was just, I don't know. Actually, it was sad.
You and me, same mind. You read my mind. I kept saying to Brandy throughout our whole podcast, I am dreading the end of season 7. I'm dreading it, not because I don't want it to end. It's because I know how it's going to end. I got to know there were so many Jedi that I didn't know, and it was because of Clone Wars that I got to know a lot of them. And towards the end of the series, I really got attached to Plo Koon of all things, and I just remember distinctly watching him die in Revenge of the Sith, and now I actually know this guy. You know, he's the one that discovered Ahsoka and called her. Was it Little Soka? I mean, gosh, I have to watch this guy die. He
went down so. It was terrible. I mean, a couple of shots to the back of his fighter, and
I remember one time, right before we had to watch Revenge of the Sith. I remember it was like 4 a.m. I can't sleep, and that scene is like running through my head. I don't know why, but that scene of him dying was running through my head, and I'm like, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
So it was so sad. I mean, I cried in the movie theater back in 2005 when I saw all of this, and I didn't even know any of those guys. But can you imagine how I reacted? Wow. Yeah, so I was crying then, and I was sobbing now. So
that is crazy without the context of the Clone Wars.
Well, I think I actually, of all the prequels, Revenge of the Sith was my favorite of all of them, because I thought how Lucas executed that whole Order 66 was done perfectly. The music and just he did a good job with it.
Yeah, it was a good soundtrack that went behind it and really made you pluck the heartstrings, and you knew something terrible was happening. It wasn't just a military decision. I mean, it was an emotional dagger.
When you see Kiadi turn around in shock, like, why are you guys all pointing your guns at me? Like, I lost it, Like, I didn't even really know Kiadi except for, a couple scenes with him. But, yeah, it's just awful. It was heartbreaking.
See, actually, this was me back in the aughts when it first came out. I'm just waiting for Darth Vader to come on. Like, what is going on here? Like, is this the part when he comes on? That's just me. Now, Now I'm seeing the whole thing in context. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
and we watched it, or at least I did. I watched it from watching the season 7, episode 9, and then going to Revenge of the Sith, and then cutting out of that back to episode 10, and then just watching that whole thing in context. And it's just such a you get no happy endings. There's no happy endings in this.
No, there's not.
The Death Star has a happy ending at the end of episode 3. It's a new life coming to.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, yeah, we get Luke and Leia.
I mean, we just said Ken just told us that there's a 20. These guys are just about to go on a 20-year streak of unbroken success. So there's some good stuff for the Empire, at least.
Yeah,
at the end of that.
And even Luke and Leia coming into the world, that was still melancholy because they lost both their parents.
Both their parents, yeah.
They'll never have, let's say, a normal childhood. We don't even know if there's any sort of child youth services or anything to anchor themselves. And they get separated, so they don't even know their brother and sister. And they won't know, and they won't know until the sister has kissed the brother several times. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs. Yeah. And as I was saying, there's arc of tragedy. It's like Shakespeare. There's tragedy. Yeah.
And then very Shakespearean.
And there's victory. And then there's more death. There's more death. And so you have Revenge of the Sith, which is sort of let's say a low point, high point for the Empire, but a low point for us. And you've got A New Hope. And then you've got Empire Strikes Back, which throws us down into the dirt again because the Empire's kind of got a second wind on them, technically, and then Return of the Jedi, of course, throws us back up into the light. And we're, so, and then when the new trilogy comes out, there's just despair and anguish because we're like, what the hell's going on now?
Yep.
Yeah, there's always something going on. Now, one thing with you, Ashley, me, Hitch, and Ken down there. This is our first time seeing the series, so T. Mitch has watched this about 2 or 3 times over. What perspective are you having now, T, from watching this over again?
To me, it brings a whole new perspective because it kind of gives me more appreciation for it. I mean, as I watched it, it kind of binge watched it from time to time. And as I've actually spent the time to watch it now, it really, like I said, it's more of a fabric knitter to me. It really puts Lucas's ideas all on one plate. And it really brings closure to 1, 2, and 3 because I felt like even when I watched them, they were incomplete as good as they were. So it really kind of brings closure to those 3. But to give a high point on those, I mean, look at all the, legend stories we gained in Expanded Universe. I mean, we're seeing Sith, we're seeing the Night Sisters, we go to Dathomir. We're going to planets we never would have saw unless we read the novel. So kudos to LucasArts for allowing them to bring these stories that you would have seen on a video game or in a book to life. I mean, that's something I hope they continue with because and me and Hitch talked about it. I think arguably their novels might be the best work in the Star Wars universe. So it's nice to get some of those expanded stories on film, whether it be cartoon media or digital media.
Yeah, Brandy was here. She would second everything you said because she grew up with Legends and the Expanded Universe. And she's just been, over the moon seeing everything that she's seen so far that she grew up with, meeting these characters and stuff. So
did she watch all this before?
Brandy had not seen Clone Wars before.
Oh, okay. So you guys were both fresh into it. Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Man, they really messed up the marketing of that show, man. They messed it up. How could we all think about where they were, the target audience of that show we had to have been in the upper end of that, at least in age, right? And we just missed all of us. It's so wild, man.
Well, I figure, in 2006, I was around, 20, but the marketing was that was when Toonami wasn't cool anymore. And I think that's what it was on, right?
That's what I was watching Toonami.
I was in college doing things, and I just don't, Dragon Ball Z wasn't cool anymore. So, that's when Toonami kind of lost its, luster.
But remember, before that, the movie came out, so that was the driving force of everything as far as the series. So after the movie, when the movie came out, I remember it got such bad reviews. Say, what is this crap? You know, people were happy another Star Wars film was coming out after Revenge of the Sith, but you know, this animated thing, like, what is this? You know, this is not my Star Wars. Some people were saying, you know, it was animated, it was too kid, or cartoonish and stuff, and it was very people. A lot of people really dismissed it because of just what it just looked like. I don't think it was ready at that time. It was probably more of ahead of its time, if you want to call it that. But I don't think the presentation, you know, as Ken and his kids was, you know, alluding to, was very, very, very good at that in that point in the beginning.
Yeah, they marketed it all wrong. I mean, they put it on late night on, I think it was on whatever, Cartoon Network, stuck between two other shows. It didn't really have a time slot. You didn't really know when it was on. It wasn't like you could say, you know what, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. I'm going to watch Clone Wars. You couldn't do that because they moved it around. So it was really a kind of a mess in that respect. I think it was more of a test because they just had Revenge of the Sith come out. It you know, was successful. Now there wasn't anything planned for a long time. I mean, I think the whole Star Wars kind of just the theme, you know, different movies and stuff. There wasn't really anything planned. So they're like, let's try this animated series and see what happens. And it was targeted toward kids. Yoda was cute.
Again,
he wasn't like the old Jedi Master, the tough old bird that we kind of knew from Return of the Jedi and Empire. So he was a little bit different. Of course, he was younger, you know. So you know, got to remember that he was 200 years younger or so. I don't know, but yeah, I think it was just done wrong. Didn't catch me at all.
I also think too it was 3D. That was something that we were pretty much getting used to. You know, we were used to 2D animation. Here, this is 3D models coming out. You know, with thin legs and odd looking faces, and you know, just and you talk about like with Star Wars, figures and like just people. You got a bunch of different weird looking, you know, aliens and stuff. Anyway, so to combine that on top of that, it was just a put off maybe to a lot of folks. You know, except for T. Mitch. Well, no, he said he did.
Well, yeah, definitely was. But DP, you have to keep in mind though as well. Until the last, I would say 3.5, 4 years, this still wasn't a hit. The only reason they made that final season this really took off was all of us. I mean, you know, YouTubers, giant Star Wars channels. I mean, it's really the YouTube network that people started doing streams and talking about it that even made it relevant, because this series up to 3 years ago still wasn't a hit until people started reviewing it, and then, you know, it was YouTube and these fan driven medias that drove the viewership up, which is why Disney went back in and finished it off.
True. They used all that Disney money and technology to finish it right. Like they did it proper, you know, they did it real good. So.
And speaking of which, Ashley, how do you feel about how the production went from, like, you know, it was good and then it went to great, you know? Like, how do you feel about like the final season there?
Well, first of all, one thing that I couldn't get over was the animation and the effects, the quality. Like, there were so many times when it's like I had to remind myself I'm watching an animated show. Like, it's just so good, you know. But also just the characterization, the arcs, the storytelling. It's like, again, this is an animated show. Like, I didn't know animation could be this good. So yeah, it was just like night and day from the beginning, like even from the Clone Wars film to season 1 to season 7. Just if you hold them up, it's like, you know, black and white. I was just blown away. It was superb.
Yeah, that final season went from just especially for me, and I talked about this before. It was just amazing, like the level of detail that they put along, you know, a lot of the character models to like you know, the backgrounds, you know, and just making the arcs feel like real. Everything was just movie quality to me. It should have been like up on the big
cinematic.
Screen. Yeah, it was very
cinematic masterpiece.
There you go. Very cinematic that last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially, I don't know if you saw the behind-the-scenes footage of that fight between Darth Maul and Ahsoka, but you know how they actually used, like, I don't even know what you call it, but they tracked all their body movement.
Oh, okay.
You know, because I remember
Yeah.
watching this and it's like I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Like, this is so amazing. Like, I watched that fight like 5 times because it was just
like
so
two
beautifully
people
done.
fighting, right?
And it
Looked
was
like
actually two people fighting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how they were
Very
able to pull that off. Just incredible. The technology. Like, I'm at the point now, I don't care if the rest of Star Wars is animated. It's really good.
Ooh, that's a strong take right there.
It is.
That's a great thing to actually pop off. How do we feel about that? Are we like,
Well, I mean, not all of it, but you know, if
All
it's
right.
too expensive to do live production, just animate it.
But here's the thing about that nowadays, and this is gonna sound wild, but the difference between a live action movie and an animated movie now, in some ways, comes down to exactly how good is the animation. And if it's really, really good, we call it a live action movie. And if
it's really, really, really good.
Yeah.
It's like Avengers 4 if it's really, 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 really good, right?
Right.
So we're talking about scope. It's interesting because Star Wars seems to be the perfect vehicle for animation. You know, Creature Lab stuff obviously lends itself to that, and the space stuff. The space stuff in this series is, to me, even in the early episodes where some of the characters were blocky, they always had the fighter stuff right.
Yep.
And
all the space battles.
Yeah.
And how good. And now when we were looking at like corridors, right? Like characters are running down the corridors like this or whatever they're running, you know, animation runs. And it's like, could you put a real person in that corridor and could you tell the difference? And it's getting close now. Right.
Yeah.
And with the volume and, you know, there's so many things they can do. Who's to say there couldn't be some sort of Who Framed Roger Rabbit Star Wars to come out and be excellent? Why shouldn't there be an alien race in Star Wars that's animated?
Yeah. Because who's to say that space isn't animated anyway?
Well, everything's in space.
That's a good point.
I mean, maybe it is. We know what we are here, but maybe things in space are animated, you know, and maybe it looks better that way.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we're saying, I mean, they could actually go back and redo all of the Star Wars movies animated. I mean, how cool would that be? I mean,
that's a great idea. Right. That would be awesome.
We have talked about on the show, my wish for Solo, which is for them to just do a deep fake and put Harrison Ford on the exact same performance, change nothing about the vocal performance, just put Harrison Ford's face on it, and let me see if that movie doesn't become an A+ just from doing that. I just
want to see more Chewbacca. That's the only thing with that. You want to see Chewie like 24/7, the Chewie channel. If you subscribe to that, you'd be like, oh yeah, Chewie forever. That's all you care about.
That's true. Whenever we're watching Star Wars, I'm like, but what's happening in Kashyyyk? What's going on with the Wookiees? Like, can we get there?
Not the little Wookiees, not the Ewoks. I mean, the big Wookiees.
The big ones, the ones that eat the little ones.
So you guys have started the Bad Batch. We haven't started that yet. Ken has watched it like a couple episodes. I haven't started that, but I'm hearing it's like just a continuation of what we're seeing from like, you know, that final season 7 and everything. So we're really excited about that. How are you feeling about that so far, Ashley?
I personally love it. I really do. There's been some episodes that people had issues with, call them filler episodes, whatever. But I really think that the quality is still up there, especially this last episode that we just watched a couple nights ago. It was probably one of my favorites of the whole series besides episode 1. But it is a continuation of Clone Wars. You're going to see some familiar faces. I won't say who. But they're really doing a great job. Just, you know, kind of continuing on the story of, you know, what happens to these guys after Order 66, you know, and how are they going to navigate in this world with this new empire. So I will say that I saw some similarities in the beginning of Bad Batch that I saw in Solo. And I actually just watched Solo for the very, very first time last week.
Really?
So, yeah,
wow.
I didn't see it. It was good. I did like it. It's not like my top favorite Star Wars film, but I didn't think it was, you know, it deserved the crap that it got. Like, I can't believe that it tanked. But I really think that kind of like what happened with Clone Wars, I think we are going to get a sequel because there's so many people coming out saying that they want to find out what happens after Solo. So I'm really hoping we get a sequel because I think it deserves one.
Yeah.
So Ashley, since you're into the Bad Batch a little bit, I watched one episode. So legitimize me. My thought is Tarkin is looking at the Bad Batch as his stormtrooper model. Is that it at all? Because you can't do anything with a clone because a clone is pre-programmed.
Right.
So Tarkin needs a thinking, smart, strong soldier now to build a stormtrooper army. And the way he was watching them go through the training, and then he put live fire on them.
Yeah,
He still couldn't wipe them out. And then just when he was looking like this, he's like,
Yep.
So is he going to do? Is that true, or am I completely off base?
I think you might want to keep watching because
You old spoiler hound, you.
Yes, Kim.
It's funny. I love spoilers, but now I'm being careful about to give them out because.
Oh yeah.
Randy and I were just talking about that. Did you guys see that interview with Ewan McGregor and Pedro Pascal? Did you guys watch that? They were going. It was really good. You should watch it. But you can tell when they're talking to each other, they're trying so hard not to give anything away. And I just said, if I was an actor, I would just, I would just blow the whole thing up. I would just be spilling secrets and everything. So
yeah, that's Tom Holland. That's
I would be Tom Holland. I would, because it's like I talk first, think later. So, but yeah, Tarkin, I don't think is a fan of the clones. I think he had heard about these guys and wanted to see what they could do. But it all comes down to a question of loyalty with him and obedience, following orders. And so that's where you're going to see his trust in them maybe falter.
Okay. Because that kind of makes sense too. Because I thought that also. But then, I thought if I put myself in his head and the amazing military strategist that Tarkin is, and how he build this magnificent galactic empire, and he's really the hand behind the whole thing because everyone's afraid of Vader, but you're going to listen to Tarkin,
right?
Okay, so I felt that he was looking at these guys as being maybe his trainers, so he might train the new soldier, because you're going to have the stormtroopers, and the stormtroopers in the Galactic Empire are much better shots than the clone troopers. Like, they train better, so they're better with their weapons. They're more, they're better at getting more rounds down range on target than the clone troopers were, because the clone troopers, not only would they die fast, but they also, I don't know, they just kind of didn't have the training that I felt that the stormtroopers did initially. The stormtroopers got bad moving on, but I think initially they were pretty good trained soldiers.
Yeah, they definitely falter because if I'm seeing like some of these Mandalorian episodes and some of the they fall, just like tap them and then they fall and
they fall over. Like the stormtroopers.
Admiral Tarkin here is talking about the longevity and aim of the general, stormtrooper in Star Wars. I don't know how much purchase you're going to get from the GP on that, boss. I think they're pretty famous for being incompetent boobs. But when you think about what the difference is between a clone trooper and a stormtrooper, it is literally the difference in First Blood between Rambo and the sheriff. That is the difference between those guys and their jobs, right? So, like, could Rambo really be the sheriff of that town? Now, the answer is yes. He's a killing machine, and he's very effective at everything he does. But should he be the sheriff of that town?
Yeah, that would be bad for everyone.
Yes.
So, at a certain point, you kind of get the idea here that if you sent, I don't know, 15,000 Jango Fetts to Tatooine to make sure all the moisture farmers are paying their moisture tax, that things eventually would get a little bit, I don't know, crazy.
Messy,
right? Yeah. That's too many Jango Fetts to have in one place.
Right.
We need to pull back the Jango Fetts. We need more.
There's too many Jango Fetts out in the galaxy. We gotta get him out.
Yeah,
Like I know an easy way to get rid of a lot of them. Hear me out here.
Circling back to Solo, that's going to be like one of our movies to come up next, alongside watching, the Bad Batch and everything. And since you've seen it, like for your first time, I seen it in the theaters. It was one of those things where I almost fell asleep on it. But then I saw it again. And I was like, well, this is a good movie. Why wouldn't I stay awake for it? This is not a bad movie, as far as that. At the time, I thought it would just got a bad rap for coming out right after Last Jedi. Right, like 6 months right after that. Right. It was bad timing. It probably should have came out like a year from then, and people were real divisive on that movie. But that's one of our next movies coming up to continue in the whole chronological aspect of like this whole series and stuff. And I can't wait to talk about that. What are you guys having coming up next on your podcast?
On ours, we just finished Solo, so we're watching Solo, and then we're going to continue watching Bad Batch until it's over. But we're going to be starting Rebels, I think, tomorrow night.
Ooh.
So we're watching the first 4 episodes tomorrow night.
Yeah,
we're a little bit ahead of you, so you're nipping at our heels here. We'll be starting Rebels. We'll be averaging about 8 episodes a week with that. So I think we'll probably finish, I'm guessing in August or so. And then we're going to be getting into the original trilogy, which, I'm anxious to watch again. Because, I grew up with the original trilogy. Didn't see it in the theaters, but, saw it on TV and watched them over and over again. So I'm anxious to sort of watch that. Also Rogue One. We'll watch Rogue One for sure. And I can't believe it, but I've only seen that one time. And I actually do consider that one of the most, I know I'm bad. I'm bad, but I consider that like the most perfect of all of the films.
Yes.
It is a masterpiece, but I've only seen it once.
If you watch a Rogue One into New Hope.
I just remember thinking.
Mitch had to drink. He had to take a drink. He's biting his tongue right about now.
You see him start flexing his shoulders. That's when you know it's time.
Okay.
Bigger masterpiece in episode 8, Hitch.
Oh, hey, now we don't have to pick favorites. Some of us think certain things work and certain things don't. I think it's interesting how you have these paired up medias like Rogue One and Episode 4, and like Episode 7 and 8. The real problem with 7 and 8 is there's not enough time between 7 and 8. 7 and 8 are the same movie, just second half of the story, right? So where's the missing piece? And for me, the missing piece of the prequel period was this piece in the middle. I always thought my problem with the prequel trilogy, and I put it on tape so everyone knows it has ever listened to me, is that I thought that there should have been Episode 2, something in the middle, Episode 3, and that should have been basically that story. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting is filling in the blanks on the Clone Wars, filling in the blanks on this period of history has also set all the seeds in motion for literally every Star Wars property that's current right now. And so as a rubric for moving forward, you just can't skip the Clone Wars, or else you're not going to know who any of these people are. Like Bo-Katan and none of them.
Like, we have to thank season 2 of The Mandalorian. Like, that's what motivated me to want to get into Clone Wars, because I didn't know who Bo-Katan was. Didn't know who Ahsoka Tano was.
Yep.
Even Admiral Tarkin, which we don't meet Thrawn. Admiral Thrawn. Yeah. So we just hear him mentioned, but it's like, I know that they were going to see him again. So I got to know who this guy is. So, I really do think if you really want to enjoy Star Wars as a whole, you got to watch Clone Wars, so you can meet all of these characters and appreciate, because you're going to see them in the future. We're definitely going to be seeing them in the future. So
yeah, Thrawn's name just excites me alone, because he just seems like he's just a straight badass.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's coming from a casual perspective. I thought it was just all about Darth Vader,
right?
Palpatine. That's it.
Exactly.
It's all these. We got Grievous. We got like Thrawn. We got like I can't think of his name right now, but yeah, we got some general badasses out there that just are filling up like the whole galaxy and stuff, and it's so much more than just like the Skywalker saga, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that
was something else that I have to tell you really quick, that the biggest freak out moment I had watching Solo, and this, I was completely not expecting this, but seeing Darth Maul at the very end of Solo, I was like, what? Like, I knew he had disappeared at the end of Clone Wars, but it's like, what happened to that guy? What is he doing? And there he shows up at the end. I was like, oh my gosh. So now I really want to see like the next Solo, or I think he's coming out with his own series. So bring it on. I love Darth Maul personally.
Yeah, and there could be a Lando series.
I heard about that. Sign me up. Give me all the content. I am such a glutton when it comes to Star Wars.
Just shut up and take my money, as far as I'm concerned.
Pretty much.
I'm in for the long haul.
I agree.
Well, you got coming up next, Trench, T-Mid.
Trench.
Spider General Trench.
Oh man. So I know we got some good. What good shows are we got coming up in the Star Wars galaxy?
There's a lot coming out. I mean, to the dismay of Hitch, his show is officially canceled.
Jar Jar Binks show.
So Rangers, Rangers is done. Rogue Squadron.
Well, maybe not forever. Could be just being shelved.
They're shelving that for a while. They might still go ahead with Rogue Squadron, but it's a little bit of a backlash because they had Gina Caruso is a big part of that show. So they've canceled Rangers. And then there's some backlash as of today, breaking news with the Star Wars Acolyte show.
What?
Some negativity coming around. I guess the showrunner, Leslie Headland, is basically just saying some of the things that she's bringing to the show is more for casuals and not more for hardcores. So she's going to focus on, as DP says, more people that are non-Star Wars fans and try to draw them in, which is dangerous territory when we found out 7, 8, 9. So,
but we don't know. We don't know what we want as a community. I am firmly convinced that if you told me, Scott, here is $1 billion, make a Star Wars movie, that I would make it and I would watch it and I would hate it.
Right.
That I guarantee it. Like, that's the thing. If I had no idea that what I wanted was the Mandalorian and the Clone Wars, I had no idea, and it is what I want.
I mean, what fan really knows what they want? They could tell you what they think they want, but until it actually is presented in front of them, they don't really know what they actually want. So to say, you know, if that's what she said, that okay, you're going to cater to like the casuals and stuff. Us fans, we love to speculate. We love to complain as soon as we hear something. But once it's put out in front of our faces, we shut up. We get quiet.
You know what? Just talking about this, you know what character do we not really have any real background on?
I can only think of one.
There's really nothing that talks about Leia's growth. How she, she grew up on Alderaan. We hear about Alderaan. We hear about Bail Organa, who took her under his wing, but we don't really know how she developed. What experiences did she have that made her who she became? Which, as far as I'm concerned, she's the most kick-ass female character in the entire everything. And I'm not a big Rey fan, although I love Rey as a character, and it's strong. But I'm not really sold on her backstory or anything, because it kind of was poofed out of the ether. But Leia is a character that really needs to be developed a little bit, because we really only start to hear about her in what? Empire, right? Yeah. She's General Organa, but we really don't know where that came from. She was in a really nice dress in a prison cell on the Death Star. Okay. So who is this woman? What did she do? So this really needs to be. And she married Han and only had 3 kids. 3 kids: Jason, Jannah, and Anakin. Ben was not in the picture. There was no Ben Solo. Okay.
Well, you know the sad part of her passing, which was a tragedy in itself, but they actually had her filmed to do some actual action because we find out in 9 that she's a Jedi Knight. She's been trained by Luke, so they actually had some scenes planned for her to be in action with a lightsaber, and you know it's an unfortunate end of the story. Good send off for her, I believe. I mean, it was great. I love what the tribute they did for her, but like Ken's saying, I wish there's a way to kind of maybe have somebody play her character and give us more backstory. And we're still, there's 2 main stories we still don't have. We're 3, I guess, would say. We'd like to see a Palpatine series as he's growing up, a young Palpatine, maybe under, Darth Plagueis. We're itching for Luke, which will probably come within the next 2 years. And then we want to see what happened to Anakin or Darth Vader on Mustafar. We still really don't know much of Mustafar. We don't know when he takes Leia there to bury her in that tomb. So I'd like to see a Vader series as well. And I think with Hayden Christensen coming back on board in LucasArts, I think that might be something that we'll see. But these are probably 2-3 years. Well, I don't even know 3 years because, they have that map out now. So we're probably looking 4 or 5 years out.
It's a busy 20s.
Yes.
Gonna be busy.
20 years.
A lot of content for both podcasts.
Yes, it's going to be endless. Bring it on. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really anxious to see Kenobi. I've been waiting for that for 15 years. I mean, I bring this up my listeners are probably sick of me saying this, but in Revenge of the Sith, Yoda tells Obi-Wan that, someone made communion in the Force, Qui-Gon, it's like, oh, great. So maybe we'll see some Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan talking through the Force and stuff. And we'll get to see what Obi-Wan's going to be doing in the next few years, looking after Luke.
So my thought on that is that's how so you wonder how Obi-Wan kept his brain together, right?
Yeah.
On Halloween. Qui-Gon was with him. Qui-Gon continued his training.
Yep.
And communed with him because honestly, excuse my language, I would have lost my shit if that was my job now to watch this boy that
in the middle of the desert, be a hermit. Be a hermit. I can't do anything cool anymore. I can't be a Jedi. I can't run around the galaxy. I can't fly a starship. I can't tell clones what to do anymore. I'm not a general. I'm a nothing. And you got to give me something. Okay, give me Qui-Gon. Yeah.
And so that.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, Ken, as well, this is we discussed even at the end of 3. Obi-Wan's a broken man at this point.
Oh,
he's lost his best friend. He's lost his Padawan. Padme's died. The Jedi Order's fallen. He's failed as a master.
Making me cry.
Oh, okay.
He really had the worst of it.
Yeah, it's really and to think about it, as we discussed it, his really father figure was Qui-Gon, like Anakin's, and he lost him at a young age. So he basically, it's sad because he grew up on his own, and that's the point that I'd like to see as we're discussing of what happens to him, because at this point, we've seen in what was that, the Clone Wars, the love of his life, was brutally murdered in front of his face. Brutally murdered in front of his face. So all this happens to this guy. So.
That's
It'd be interesting to see.
Obi-Wan had it the worst. And he suffered through it the right way.
Yeah,
that's why
I call him Saint Obi-Wan. So.
I'd also like to see a series of Darth Vader with R2-D2 helping him fly his TIE fighter, because come on.
Would R2 do that? I don't know.
They were buds.
Actually, they were best buds, but in Empire Strikes Back, in Return of the Jedi, we get no type of connection between R2 and Darth Vader.
And there should be some inkling, like Vader should have looked at him and said, "Oh, look, a trash can I love."
I feel like you have to.
I look at R2 and Vader as that one song. I forget what that pop song was, but it was like, "We are never, ever, ever getting back together."
Yeah.
I don't know. I think R2 took that love he had for Anakin and passed it on to his children, and that was where his loyalty ended up.
R2 passed it on to his children.
Well, I would say passed it on, but like R2's affection went towards Luke and Leia at that point.
He stuck with Padme during the schism. He's like, "No, you can't act like that that's no good. And then Anakin is just a terrible boyfriend the whole time. Like literally, he never does anything that's
R2 was
redeeming.
like, look, Padme, no, you can't do this.
And then that's
Don't
the
go
line,
here.
R2. That's the line. All right, R2.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about crazy stuff like how, like, you know, Padme doesn't really express any interest in Anakin until after he slaughters all those sand people. And how, like, that's like the beginning of their romance when he's like, I've committed 100 murders and children, a lot of children. And then she's
And
like,
she's like, oh, sign me up. Oh, I love you.
she's like, you know, the
Attack of
Japanese
the
have a saying.
Clones is the most cringy movie I've ever seen, and I was cringing the whole time watching it with Brandy. Yeah, it was bad. The only thing I liked about Attack of the Clones was, you know, meeting Jango Fett and seeing little Boba Fett, and then seeing the fight between him and Anakin, or not Anakin, Obi-Wan, sorry. Yeah, that was the only thing I liked about Attack of the Clones.
You didn't like the diner scene?
Oh, a
You
space
didn't think there should have
diner!
been more space diners?
A space diner, really? Oh, yeah.
There's about an hour
It
of
was
good movie.
really
there.
rough. Yeah, that
I
was
mean,
rough.
you could put it in there, I guess, but
It's still not the worst moment we've seen in Star Wars history.
what is that? What's the worst moment in Star Wars history?
You've seen this on episode 8, and I'm never going to let this down. I've told you this 8,000 times. Luke Skywalker drinking breast milk.
That was pretty bad.
I don't know why that came in, why they did that. I was disgusted. I remember me and my wife were in the movies, and it's literally the first time I left a movie, and I was like speechlessly not happy. Like I just walked out of episode 8, like.
But that goes
Speechless.
back to the New Hope when he was drinking the milk on that Aunt Beru gave him. That's what the bring back is. That's how it circles back.
Ken, you're not saving any points for this one. You're not saving any points for this one.
Milk, they had to bring back. That was the connection. You didn't get that?
So that's the green milk they're selling the Galaxy's Edge?
Yeah, that's the great milk of the galaxy.
So for you, and I just want to make sure we're clear, the milk thing in episode 8 is worse than Jar Jar Binks stepping in poop in episode 1.
Yeah.
We're talking about the worst moments of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the lowest point of the entire?
He wiped his foot. He goes, I got poop. They give him a whole 15 seconds. Like it gets way too much time.
Is that when he stumbles into the blaster?
No, that's a totally different time. That's a totally different time.
And that was pretty bad too.
You didn't like when he got his tongue stuck in the pulsar of the pod racer?
And it was
I love that. I could watch that over and over and over.
I thought to myself, when we watched through episode 1, 6 months ago, I thought to myself, if they just let him get executed here, I'm fine with his inclusion in this movie. Like he's a fine character, great. And then if they just because how they'd have to, he's a frog, so obviously they'd have to execute him by making him try to cross a busy street and only give him certain areas that he could jump to and then jump back and forth.
Well, how about I don't even remember what season it was in Clone Wars where he was a player.
No, that was season 4, and I hated it.
Oh, his girlfriend.
They tried.
Yeah, he was
Really
doing
hard.
yoga and
His girlfriend,
Tai Chi
Queen Julie. Oh,
I know.
that was so bad. I couldn't wait to get through that arc. I was just like, is it over yet? Is it over yet?
Clone Wars, that's like the TV show kept going like, so what do you think about Jar Jar Binks now? All right.
Worse.
He's got a girlfriend.
About him
He's
now.
got a girlfriend. What do you think about him now? All right. Okay. All right. Okay.
A lot cooler
Still
than
hate
you
him.
were when you were in high school.
Yeah, they were making those episodes for you, Hitch.
All right, now let's say not only does he have a girlfriend, but he's going to get in the way of Mace Windu doing stuff. So, anytime you put Shaft and Jar Jar Binks in a love story and give Jar Jar Binks a love interest, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
And this bears repeating again. And on Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan comes to tell Padme about Anakin killing all the younglings and stuff, and she just can't believe that he would be that type of guy.
Yeah, she still wants his college ring on her finger, and she's wearing his jacket, his Letterman jacket. I mean, she doesn't care. She's all in. She bought.
You talking about Anakin, the same guy who committed
Anakin?
The guy who committed genocide?
I'll marry him and have 2 children.
Well, now I'm interested if he's killing all the younglings. Like before, no thanks. War hero, saving the galaxy, pass. Always committed genocide against the younglings and the Sand People. A dual genocide, you got to tie that
Sign
up.
me up.
Put a ring on it.
To finish up on that point with the episode 3, I thought the ending for Clone Wars was better, and DP alluded to this. Even like with Rogue One, those dark endings, and for sometimes in the movies, are the best. I didn't expect, when they died delivering the plans, I didn't expect them to die. I thought they'd get out of that. So that was kind of cool.
Oh,
I didn't expect them to die. I
When they
thought
just
somehow
sit
they would
down,
Oh
when
my
they
God.
all give
As a
up.
casual fan, when I walked into that theater, when I saw this, I just knew they were all going to die.
I was
In fact, I
shocked that
totally
they
blew
died.
it for my husband. I leaned over and I said, "They're all going to die." You know,
But
that,
they all gave up. This is what was so powerful about that, is they all recognized the inevitability of their demises, and they got to recognize it, and they accepted it.
Yeah.
And that is something that
That's
you
beautiful
never
and
see.
powerful.
Right?
Yeah,
It's like got a band of brothers or something like that.
Well,
Wow,
yeah,
just
right.
like Saving Private Ryan. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
moment where you have a team and they know they have an objective, but they know they're
You're
not
not coming home.
ready.
They're
Yep.
not-
not
right.
coming home.
You ready?
But
You ready, Ken?
but they're gonna succeed, and they're gonna be remembered forever. I mean,
Yep.
they're gonna live in infamy
Mhm.
because of the actions that they did.
I thought they should have did that in the movie. The way you've seen more of Vader, like with the lightsaber to the Ahsoka part. I just thought the ending that should have been the ending of 3. The way 3 ended so abruptly, I was just like wanting, it left you wanting more.
Yeah.
It left it so incomplete.
Yeah, that's a bad. Well, I guess on 3 part that was a bad way to end it, because the way it could have ended if if it ended on the Darth Vader scene with us, Ahsoka. That's the perfect way to end that, because what you get, like you if you're a big Star Wars fan, you're not getting another Star Wars physical live action movie until 7 comes out. So you have to deal with any animated or ancillary product up until the live action stuff comes out. So for it to end like that, you're like, what? And it just ends just like that. But still, in the context of like those last 4 episodes with Revenge of the Sith, it's a perfect way to end the Clone Wars portion.
Right.
I have to say though, Brandy and I were a little disappointed.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that. Tell us about that.
Well, for me, like the specific thing that I was disappointed in, and I was saying I would never make it as a Jedi because I got attachment issues. So I get attached to like an idea or something. I have a hard time letting it go. So I really was convinced that Ahsoka and Vader were going to face off at the end of Clone Wars. I don't know why I thought this, but I thought like that's what was going to happen, because he had to face off against Obi-Wan and in a sense face off against Padme, but Ahsoka didn't get to see Anakin make that dark transformation and come to that realization. So I felt kind of robbed a little.
Spoiler warning. Spoiler alert.
Stop.
No, we
stop.
don't court those
Stop.
things
We
here.
don't
Stop it.
What?
Stop it.
Stop.
Am I going to see something in Rebels? Is that what's going to happen?
You talk about another person that just wants to spill the beans, so to say, and everything. So yeah. But even in the context of episode 3, it was really no way they could have met or fought, or it was a sad ending, and it had to end the way that it had to, because they had to fit everything within the structure of Revenge of the Sith. And I love the way it paralleled the movie, and the way we got some of the perspective of Ahsoka and her mission, with like the Mandalore, siege on Mandalore, when the whole Clone Wars thing, Order 66 was happening.
Yeah.
I want to mention
that
I think the reason that emotional note with Vader hits there is because the emotion that you are seeing him express in this expressionless robot suit is remorse. And it's this idea that this is like the cost, right? This is what he was. Ahsoka is the symbol of Anakin Skywalker, a visage that Vader wants to banish from existence. And he comes upon her lightsaber. And it's the only time we see Vader be introspective about his past and realize that he was a man that stood for a lot of things that he doesn't stand for anymore. And that not only did his master not fall, but his Padawan didn't either. So he's a failure.
I don't think Vader's all caught up in that as much as we think he is. I mean, I think he has all those experiences behind him. He's just decided to put them in one basket. I mean, he's really made an investment he's really pissed at the Jedi.
Yeah.
Because who made him who he is? His brother. I mean, as much as they were at each other's throats and kind of at odds through the entire Clone Wars series, they were still like a brother. And Obi-Wan said it. Anakin maybe never voiced it, but he's got all these experiences, and I don't think that Vader is the giant robot, non-feeling personality that everyone bakes him out to be. I think he's got a lot going on inside that helmet. I think he's got the loss of his wife. He doesn't even know he has 2 kids.
Well, he must be real good at compartmentalizing, because he sure put R2,
point, and I want to see that. I want to look down at that little trash can and go, hey, that dude's cool. I know him.
Hey, he used to be my Nintendo.
He used to be my right-hand dude, man. I think Vader is got a lot going on behind those eyes.
I agree with you there. And we actually, Brandy and I were just talking about this in the last podcast. There was an article that came out that broke down the end scene with Return of the Jedi when remember how he's looking back and forth between Luke and Palpatine?
Yeah.
And you're wondering, and that whole time I'm thinking he's torn whether he should save his son or not. But you didn't think that he's also wondering, should I kill my master? Because he's been so loyal for 20-something years. He is the most loyal, of the Sith, because the Sith, they always turn against each other, but Anakin was never like that.
Yeah, Anakin and Palpatine were buds.
They were.
Close.
And so that is what's going on inside of him. He's like, do I save my son or do I kill my master? So that blew my mind, because I never had considered that before.
Yeah, and
that's
think
deep.
think about also, he now realizes he had a son, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had a son, and what has my son been doing this whole time? So
Right.
all this history and this backstory that maybe I'm interested in. Like, I'm interested as a father.
Mm-hmm.
What has my son been doing? So that makes it even worse.
Yep.
We got this.
So there was a conflict. Luke was right. There is a conflict.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think and if you look at the reason, and I wonder, did George Lucas have a conflict with his father? Like, was there some?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that's really what drives this whole story.
It does.
Family. It's
it is.
family, and we all have these conflicts with our family. I mean, who are the people that we fight and love? We hate and love.
Yep.
All at the same time in equal amounts is our family.
Right.
So
Family.
this whole thing it's all about family and getting along and balance and looking at making and being able to actually stand behind our decisions. So if you make a decision, you have to stand behind it.
We've seen a lot of that throughout the whole Clone Wars. Especially my surprise with the Clone Wars was actually the clone, the troopers. They were how the emotion, how they made them actually feel like real, humans besides them being like clones. Yeah. So we had like individual, from Rex to, just different, to the one great episode where they found the one, clone hiding out with his family.
Deserter,
the deserter.
Love
and then
that.
it all exploded with the Bad Batch, because now you've got clones that are like, they're just like us.
Right.
They're just like us. They're like, we're not going to listen to anybody. We're going to do our own damn thing. We got the smart guy. We got the strong guy. We got the fighter. We got the romantic. We got all these different now personalities. And this Star Wars. Everybody should grow up with Star Wars.
Yeah, it teaches you a lot of lessons, a lot of good life lessons. So I guess we'll round it out by just asking everybody what are they looking forward to seeing from the future of, I guess, from the Clone Wars onward.
season 3 of The Mandalorian, but I guess that's like 18 months away now, so I'm over it, I think.
The Book of Boba is my target right now because
Boba.
it has been my love. Everything like from the moment I saw him in A Christmas Story, the Star Wars Christmas special, Boba Fett has been the coolest badass character in the entire Star Wars universe. And I mean, what character? I mean, how much cooler can you be when you scare Han Solo, right? So
Right.
Han Solo and Boba Fett are really, there's a great story right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's see that too. But I'm so looking forward to the Book of Boba and how that's going to go, and him sitting on his throne in the Jabba's seat. I mean, that opening scene of that first episode is going to be like a moment that I can't wait for.
Ahsoka for me. I'm waiting for Thrawn. I mean, I'm dying to see what's going to happen between her and when she finds, when she finally finds him, and just seeing how they develop this character in live action. And I'm excited for Ahsoka.
For me, I can't wait I'm so excited to watch Bad Batch, because when Mandalorian first kicked off, I said I want a Wraith Squadron series, and Wraith Squadron is like a special forces team from the Legends novels. And so that is a lot of what Bad Batch is. And so when they announced it, I was really excited. I said, Disney, I'm going to shut up and you take my money.
You're going to love Bad Batch.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn right now because I'm super excited for the Obi-Wan series because I really want to see what happens, and I really liked Ewan McGregor as an actor. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we get to see, and with Filoni, and we discussed this, hopefully we get to see that more developed Obi-Wan, because I just felt like when the Lucas version, he just wasn't the strongest of characters. So I like what they've done with his character through the Clone Wars animated series. So I'm excited with that, but also excited with all this new stuff because I don't know what Filoni's going to do. I don't know if they're going to do this Ahsoka in this rumored to be female kind of Seeds of Mandalore going on with Mandalorian season 3, and if they take these female actors and do a series, because they might lead these up to being like a Avengers type event with Thrawn.
That's my theory.
I think they're going to do a bunch of small ones. They're going to lead into like a big kind of mashup against Thrawn. Hopefully, hopefully you see Ezra Bridger. I mean, that's another one that people have been calling out, and there's been castings for, and it's weird because there's a lot of stuff in the background. You see people getting casted, but they never show up on film, and so yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and a lot for us obviously to talk about weekly, which is great content for us. So.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, we love having you on here. This was awesome.
I had a blast. Thank you guys so much.
Hopefully we get Brandy on too. Maybe we'll get you guys back on maybe at the end of the season of Bad Batch. We'll see how the schedule goes.
Yeah.
So that'll be real awesome to get you guys on, and we can have like a good Star Wars festivus.
We got room for one more person down here.
We can squeeze her in.
Yeah, like right there.
We'll have to do. We'll do this one.
Yeah,
this little space. Let us breathe a little bit. Just a little. We need to get some social distance.
The social distancing, but yeah, we love having you on here. This was a blast. With the crossover with a Star Wars journey, guys. So make sure you guys are catching her, the Brandy and Ashley's podcast there, and make sure you guys are catching our stuff too. We come weekly with our stuff, and we're about to start our own Bad Batch here pretty soon. So we're going to take a little bit of break, and I think Ashley and Brandy are going to continue their podcasting each and every week, right?
Yep, try to get it out every week.
Okay, awesome. Any last word, guys? All right.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you, and this is the way.
This is the way. I have spoken.
I have spoken.